Do you have a face for a dark room? Do people tell you you're ugly? Have you ever looked in the mirror and it cracked? Have you ever been to the zoo and people throw peanuts and food at you? Well, let me tell you what. Why don't you check out Mark's Wrestling Masks on Facebook? That's MARC''S. Mark's Wrestling Masks on Facebook, because that's who keeps our ugly mugs covered too. Welcome to the Shiz Show with your hosts, Vader from Wish and NWO Machine and NWO Cat.
Welcome.
Hey, I fixed it.
Yeah, welcome to the Shiz Show.
Technical genius.
Yeah, we're back with another episode. Sort of a, I guess I'll call it a bonus episode.
Well, let's just tell I started farting around with plugging things in, and the one thing I didn't do the first time.
Folks, let me just clarify something. He wasn't just farting around. He was actually farting.
I couldn't believe the
and
picked
fixing.
that up.
Yeah,
that was impressive. I put that right through the chair. I'm glad the dog was underneath.
Well, thank God.
I'd have to give it a bath.
Smell audio or audio smell. So we are back with a special edition Shiz Show. Yeah. This could be our weekly version of the show.
Yeah.
But I got a very good friend of mine, and this was I met our guest. It has to almost be 10 years by now at least, and he came up for an amateur comedy contest, and I happened to be one of the judges in the contest. Mm-hmm. And Chris is probably, and I've seen a lot of comics over 20 years, and Chris always has me laughing on stage. Like, there's not a time where I'm not laughing. And it's tough because there's guys who are in the business who laugh at everything because but I'm always one of those guys that I never wanted to do comedy.
Snob.
Yeah, I did. I never wanted to be stand-up. I was dared to go on stage. I went on stage. I did everything as a dare. So, like, to make me laugh is actually quite a task for a lot of times. And Chris is the guy who, in this contest, would make me laugh. And what I got out of Chris was that I would fight with other judges. And I don't mind saying this now because it's 10 years and he's very well established now and way ahead of the game. But they were mad at me for voting for Chris because other guys got bigger laughs. But I don't judge comedy on the bigger laugh. Yeah.
So you're saying this guy was getting canceled even before canceling was a thing?
Not canceled, but Chris is, and this is the hardest part about Chris. His name is Chris Mulawilyshyn. And Chris, welcome to the show. I know I'm babbling on about you, but he's a one-liner comic, and one-liners like a Rodney Dangerfield or a Geechee guy. Yeah, I mean, to do that for an hour is ridiculously hard.
Oh yeah,
and Chris would go up there and he would just rip out.
But when you're good at it, it's so funny.
He's so
it's
good
so
at
entertaining.
It. And they had a comic at the time, and you give your opinions after each comic has done their show, and I told one guy that why do you keep mentioning your race? I can see what you are. You don't have to mention what you are every time you're doing a joke. Yeah, and I don't like that. Like I don't need someone telling me that, hey, I'm Ukrainian or I'm German or I'm here we go.
I fixed it. Don't worry.
It didn't fix nothing. No. So Chris went up there and did actual comedy where the other guy played his entire race card through his set. Yeah. And I got in trouble and I was being canceled because I didn't like that guy. Huh. And I'm like, well, he's not funny. Yeah. If you got to tell me that you're X, Y, or Z, I don't find you funny. No. So anyway, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you've had enough smoke blown up your ass. But you have done well for yourself. And back in the day when you and I sort of became friends after this contest and everything, we just got along really well. He said, I want to open a comedy club. And I laughed, which is what you're supposed to do. Yeah. So he did. Yeah. And he's been very successful with the club. And he had 2 clubs running at one point, one in Winnipeg, which unfortunately, I think, Chris, if I'm correct, COVID kind of shut that off, right?
Yeah, COVID shut us down in 2020. And then the hotel got sold. And needless to say, all my equipment ended up getting sold at the hotel.
Oh, nice.
So
I remember you kind of got locked out of that situation, which was really unfair because I know that was all your gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, my speakers, mixer, the timer clock, like you name it, it's all gone. But I'm glad that that was a beautiful room.
Yeah. No, it was.
Terrible
It was.
location.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially some of the people living there too. Like it was
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, when Chris and I talked, I remember telling him you're going into a shady area.
Yeah. Well, I know I got friends that work in corrections, and sometimes when they get out on their parole, and that was a residence that
that's where they go.
They would go like. No.
Yeah, we won't mention the Marlboro Hotel. But,
no, and it used to be a really swanky.
And back in the day.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, a lot of heritage there.
AWA Wrestling, that's where they used to all stay. Like the bar there, they would drink. Like
Oh, there's our wrestling talk for the day.
We go,
yeah, we brought wrestling into
once.
This.
That's it.
That's okay.
Never again. Well, that's all I know. I'm not a comedy guy. I'm in the wrestling part.
So, Chris, you're into the mainstream comedy. As you know, I've sort of stayed away from doing a lot of stand up now, and I do more corporate runs than anything. And I do a corporate game show rather than stand up. I just got tired of stand up, so to speak, and moved into that. But what are your struggles in today's world with the comedy? Well, either a booker, club owner, or just on stage yourself.
Oh boy. Okay. The biggest problem in comedy is comics.
Yeah.
Overinflated egos, don't care about the craft. Yeah, I can do 45 minutes, but you only have 10 minutes of funny. Well, I could stand up there for 45.
Yeah.
Like that I care about the craft. I care about the laughs per minute. Mm-hmm. That because if you're not laughing, then it's not comedy.
Yeah. And there, it's funny you mention that because when I would do a lot of the shows, like people would, when I first started, I was very fortunate. I had the club owner like me, and there was some competition with another club here. And he said, well, I'll tell you, what if I make you the house MC? Well, everyone is jumping to this other club. And I said, well, that's fine because I live close to this comedy oasis. So I don't have to drive across the city. And he said to me, well, the only trick would be every night you have to have a new line. If it works or not, I don't care. You just have to have a new line. And I was like, okay. And people always said to me, how did you get an hour of material as fast as you did? And I was forced to, right? Yeah. And there is a difference of being on stage for 45 and being funny for 45.
Yeah.
Because being funny, as Chris will know, being funny for 45 goes by very quickly. Mm-hmm. It's just being up there for 45 does not.
Yeah. And if you don't have, because in order to do 45, you need at least an hour and 15, because if the audience isn't paying attention or not laughing, you're going to burn through your good material just trying to win them back, and that's another problem because you can't win them back. Play to the ones that are enjoying it.
Yeah.
Leave the table of stone faces off to the side.
Yeah. You know who? I don't know if he ever. I don't think he ever went through your club. Or did you ever get to work with Gilbert Gottfried? What, by chance?
No, I was planning to book him.
Yeah.
With the new place, and then he passed away.
Yeah.
Now that goes for a lot. I feel it's kind of sad saying this, but a lot of comics that I planned to book or was in the process of booking have a tendency to die before they get a chance to play my club. So I'm thinking maybe I should just book people I don't like.
Is that why you keep bugging me to get there?
Book him. I get all those wrestling belts if he goes. So
it's January 11th next year. Rob gets all my belts.
Oh, stop it.
So, so here, Gilbert. What I was going to say is, there's very funny, like you're saying. You need that hour and a half material, and Gilbert, that was another one who. Off stage, I want to talk about this too. Like, is there any comic that you can think of where you went, you know what, this guy's got to be the funniest guy in the world, and then you get him there and he's either a jerk or just doesn't talk to you? Have you had that?
I've not had any dicks in that sense.
Yeah.
I've had a couple, diva-ish people. I've
we don't have
had to say some choice words to specific comics, but the comedy world it's not a place for everybody. It's not the fun and games that you see on the stage. Mm-hmm. Comedy is there's more drama in comedy than there is in a soap opera.
And let's a lot. And here's the other thing, and I think Robin Williams is a great example of it too. That everybody thinks that the comedian is a great, funny guy, and then a lot of the comics will go back to the room and think about how to end themselves. Mm-hmm. Like it's just, it's a nasty.
It's got to be hard to be on all the time.
Like that's the other thing, right?
You get that expectation, and
I don't know. Like Chris and I, we can have our conversation. It doesn't have to be funny, and we just enjoy the conversation. But like, I'll have a lot of people say, "I can't believe you did stand up because you're not funny here at a party." And I go, "You're not paying me."
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like I don't have to DV. Like I said, my show was my show. Like I worked that craft to my show. But yeah, it's some guys are just naturally funny, and I think like I'll use Gilbert Gottfried. Like when I was hanging out with Gilbert, he liked me because I didn't treat him like Gilbert. Right. He mentioned that one day. He goes, "You don't care who I am." I'm like, "No, I'm just having fun. We're hanging out at Niagara Falls." But Gilbert was legit a sweetheart of a guy and funny as hell, like way funnier. Like mind you, his stand-up was pretty damn funny to me. But off stage, he could go either way. He would much rather be at a strip club, but he was fun. Yeah. And then you get other guys like that are just on all the time. I don't know if Chris has had a chance, but like Brad Garrett, forget it. Like you can't even catch your breath. Mm. Like he's just funny all the time. But neither one of those two had an attitude. Yeah. And I don't know if that's the era. And like Chris is like today, you're talking all these guys have egos and blah blah blah. And I don't think you should have an ego when you haven't done anything.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of talking about myself per se. If somebody asks me questions, I'll answer it. I don't, because it's comedy is not about me. Comedy is about the people in the room. It's about them getting the laughs, but the depression part, it's brutal. Like going way back to the 80s, I was a drug addict. I was just an absolute mess. Like I pulled a loaded gun on my father. I was going to actually kill him one night, November 22nd, 1987.
Thanks.
But comedy, the high you get from comedy, when you get laughs and you feel good, there's nothing like it. But when you get off stage, like I'm brutally hard on myself. I should have paused for an extra second on that one joke. I would have got a bigger pop. And then I go from, hey, I got a bunch of laughs to, this. Why am I doing this?
And why, I wonder why
I'm pouring myself out.
Yeah.
And feeling like shit after.
Like it's almost like you start the show. Like you could start your show, and you're not sure how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And then, like Chris is saying, like this is how I would explain it as, and I'll use Chris's explanation. He just reminded me of something, and he can agree or disagree. But you're going along the show, everything is going great. Yep. Okay, it's working. And as we are pulling those people in the audience up, we are getting lower because that hour is coming to an end. Yeah. Like, and then, you got to go back to your room. Yeah. And they went home laughing, talking about whatever. Yeah. And I'm back in my room going, well, that was the stupidest. Like, why didn't I say this? Like, I don't know why we beat ourselves up like that. I don't know if it's because we wish we were that person that we portrayed. Because some of us, like, I was more of a character. Like, I was, like I never had like a silly look or whatever, and I tried. Like you got to find your character. Yeah, I was more of a harsh, angry character, and that's what worked. Yeah, and then when I did TV, no one here would like me as the angry character because I was the happy, clappy, fun boy from the TV show. So it's a hard thing, man. You're always beating yourself up. Like it's never you're high. It's not like a drug high because the drug high will last, but a comedy high ends the minute you're off the stage because you're already thinking what you should have done. Yeah,
that's part of being a professional too. Like, you have a bad day at work.
Yeah, perfectionist
I could have done that. Yeah, and it goes with the territory. Like, I guess I'm I'm a comedy fan.
Yeah.
And the issue too with me here, like when the club was running like every single weekend, like I hosted that. This is just hosting. This is not filling in a 5-minute spot, a 15-minute spot, or even doing 45 minutes because nobody else showed up and it's just you and the headliner because the shows have to be 90 minutes. It's hell. Like I literally have hours of material. And like when I first started, I started comedy because I was at Robin's Donuts getting a coffee, and there was a comedy competition the night before, and they played a little blurb from the fellow that won on the radio. And that was like back in like 2002, 2003. And it's like, you won with that? So I tried signing up, and I kept missing it. Then finally, I was able to catch it. I signed up. I got the papers notarized and all that stuff because that's what they wanted. I went to the bank. I took out the prize money, which was $750, and I brought it home. I gave it to my girlfriend. And she said, "Why are you giving me this?" I said, "I signed up for Comic Idol. I'm going to win and break even." And of course, she laughed. So did my family. They were out of town. I went and did it. And yeah, I was nervous as hell until they called my name, and I went from vibrating to the point of an earthquake to perfectly calm. But 10 minutes before I was to be at the venue, I had no idea how I was going to open, what joke I was going to use. So my opening joke, I basically wrote on my way to the venue. It was, hi, my name is Chris Mulawilyshyn. I recently had some plastic surgery done. Oh, nothing to my face, but I did have my testicles enlarged, so I'd have the balls to get up here and do this. And that was my opening joke. And since I'm a one-liner guy, I ended it with, "I apologize, I'm normally not this hyper." And I destroyed the room. And then my next venture was a comedy competition in Ottawa, and I killed there. But I ended up third. But but the set that I did there, I wrote on the plane.
Oh yeah.
And see the difference too with when I'm hosting, my hosting is more like what we're talking now. I think my personality is a little more. But if I'm doing comedy, every word, every syllable has its point. Mm-hmm. But now I've hosted so much, like I'm going to Timmins to host a competition next weekend, and I'm always stuck hosting.
Oh yeah.
But the other thing too, I did a show not long ago with a group of individuals, and they wanted me to open for them. They had a hell of a time following me.
Yeah.
Because I can give the joke 30%, or I can give it 90%. But if I give it 100%, I don't mean to sound bragging, but good fucking luck following me.
Remember we were just talking about egos?
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Oh, come on.
Here he goes. No.
I
knew he would go there. Right?
I was thinking Timmins. Isn't that where Masked Man?
Yeah, I was just going to say, our sponsor, Chris, Mark, Masked Man Mark is up there. Maybe I should tell him to find you and
tell him to open the wallet and go take in some comedy. So.
Yeah. He's had it rough in the last little while too with some family stuff.
Yeah, he could use some good comedy.
He could use some good laughs. So, but so once you establish your character, have you always sort of known for you, like this one-line character? Like I'm the storyteller, but you like the one line. So how does that? Like, how do you judge how many lines or how many bits that you need to fill your hour?
It's on average, depending on, and this goes back to how long people laugh at the jokes. Because on average, it's 6 seconds is a joke. So you're looking at 10 per minute. So you're looking at 10 every minute times that by your hour, and you're into like 300 and something.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why I'm asking you, because I don't think people realize.
Yeah, that sounds like a hard way. Like it seems like the storyteller is easy way to do. I mean, that's why you're. That's why you did it.
I always take the easy way.
You phoning it in.
Yeah.
Like my biggest issue with storytelling, like when I started, I always been like short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
And then I started, adding jabs and pops in the middle. And I was doing a show at the Finlandia one time. Actually, it was with Dan Leekop.
Oh yeah.
He was the first guy I opened for. And
I'm going to tell you a story about Dan in a minute.
Let the guest finish. You
shut up.
Hijacking this guy's.
No, I want him to.
We finally get him on, and you're going to ruin it.
I'm old, and I have to be. I got a Dan Leekop story. So just go ahead. And he's a great guy. I love Dan, by the way. Go ahead.
So anyways, I opened for him. All four of my sets, because it was four shows on the weekend, were different. But I screwed up on one of my stories. It didn't really affect the joke.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing that was leading up to it that was a big deal if I cut it out. But it affected me mentally, because what if somebody broke a glass at a key point in the story that is it lines up with your callback at the end, and people don't hear it, your callback's not going to work.
Yeah.
So if you have a 5-minute story and that one part misses, it's going to affect it. And you can't really just, pull the chute and bail. So you have to finish it knowing that it's not going to get the pops you want.
Yeah. And you know what? That's funny you mentioned that, because there's numerous times, and this is sort of where I'll get angry with, one or two clubs that you perform at, where I never had trouble with hecklers. I was fine. But you would see guys up there and, they go to tell their story, and just before they're hitting their punchline, some person who just thinks they're the show chimes in, and just like you said, now you have no idea what that callback is going to be if need be, because you missed it.
Yep.
Because someone chimes in. So that's an interesting concept you just avoided by doing what you're doing. You just avoided not having that callback. You never have to rely on it.
And then at the end of the weekend, we went to a restaurant, because after the weekend they always brought us for food. And I'm sitting there, I'm talking with Dan, and he says, "How long have you been doing comedy?" And I said, "Including this show tonight, 6." He says, 6 years, that's great. I said, "No, this is my 6th time ever doing it on stage." Yeah. And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" So that really, really inspired me, and words that Daryl Lennox had said to me and stuff. I just kept pushing, and it's an addiction. You're constantly chasing that drag, and you're chasing that next joke.
Yeah.
And I'll do jokes on any topic.
And Daryl, speaking of Daryl Lennox, there's a guy gone too soon too.
Yep.
He just passed in the last year or so, young guy. So
he's a sweetheart of a human.
Yeah, a very good person. Yeah. So Dan Leekop's story, real quick. I'm touring, and I was like the guy. Now I would probably be more scared to go into a bar to do a show, but back in the day, that was the thing. We're all over the place, and these bars, and they were packed. People always came to see them. But when you're in a bar, it's just it can be a rough setting.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're like Erwin Barker was another great guy who was just
I got compared to him.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Very cerebral, very thinking comic. Like Chris will make you think in some of his jokes, which is good. Like you get that. Oh, that's great, right?
Yeah.
And that's Erwin. And I remember traveling with Erwin, and Erwin, I'll tell you Dan Leekop and Erwin. So Erwin was a very funny writer. He was a great writer for people. Like he would help me too when I first started. And so we're driving one day to this. We're in Estevan and Weyburn. Yeah, there you go. So the night before we're performing in Estevan, the club owner, there was a stabbing. Someone got killed and stabbed on the pool table in Estevan. And now we're coming in to do comedy the next night. But we're driving there to Estevan and Weyburn, and they're two tough rooms. Like Weyburn was the worst out of the two. And we're going from Weyburn to Estevan, and Erwin is the headliner. Like I'd only been doing it maybe a year or whatever, and I had a strong show. So Erwin says to me, we're driving, and I was kind of nasally, and he says, "Jimmy, I think if you don't mind, just let me keep headlining." And I said, "Well, you are the headliner. What's the problem?" He goes, "Well, I personally, I think you should go after me." But he says, I have a feeling if you went after me, no one would be listening. Because he would have a hard time because he was a quiet comic. Yeah. He was funny. He was one-liners, but he knew, like in a bar, I was high energy, and he had trouble following. Just like Chris would go up and could destroy guys. Yeah. If they're not funny, the guy just before he stole it, right? Yeah. And Irwin didn't care. He just said, "Listen, now you should be the headliner with your energy and your act. Yeah. But no one will listen to me." Right. And he said, "You'll have nobody by the time I'm done my 45." Yeah. So he was great. And then Dan Leacock, I'm in Saskatoon, another beautiful beautiful place where as you walk in, it's pick your weapon night. Yeah. So my agent at the time in Saskatoon he phones me and he says, "Hey, listen, do you mind before your show tonight? I have a amateur comic, and we don't have a lot of stage time here in Saskatoon." What? At the time, there's not a lot. There was a couple clubs, but or a couple places that did it. And he says, "Would you mind if this new guy goes up and does 10 minutes?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely. Why not? I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. You got a crowd, have some fun." Right. So they introduced the show. They introduced, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Dan Leacock," right? So I go and I just sit down with my beer. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, got 10 minutes, I'm going to have a beer back in the day. Yeah. And I'll never forget. He goes, "How's everybody doing tonight?" And this big son of a bitch up front goes, "You fucking suck." And he went, "Thank you, good night." And he walked off stage. And I didn't even have a sip of beer yet. And the agent, Robert, was like, he goes, What the hell? And Dan was like, "Thank you, good night, here's your headliner." And he just panicked and ran off the stage. That's funny. That's an Andy Kaufman type thing. It was totally, and I was like, what the hell? So when I see Dan, and it's very rare that I see Dan now, but we would always say, he would always be like, "Jimmy, I swear to God, I'll do my time tonight." He's a great guy too. Another good guy in comedy. And there's another guy, just, you run into some guys like, Chris is a guy like that. You can just sit and chat with and there's nobody competing for jokes at the table. And Dan's another guy, just sit and chat kind of guy, from what I remember about Dan. But it's, and I'm still a storyteller who gets, again, see, I have to tell the story of all the things that where Chris would have had that wrapped up in. Well, you always kind of, we got to do half an hour, and then you go on and on. Heaven forbid, I go a minute over, and then I get my dick kicked in for the next week. So, Chris, I do the editing.
It's funny that you mentioned a stabbing. I've wrapped my cords around customers' necks because they were attacking the stage. Oh wow! But there's one night at the Dragon's Den, because I ended up doing I got open mics going there. One fellow started it, and then he bailed and basically handed it to me. But so we're there one night, and this one comic, Jesse, he's the kid is brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. He's a one-liner style guy, but he said something that offended a couple individuals. Well, one individual specifically in the bar. Mm-hmm. So he's outside, he's getting yelled at, and somebody else comes outside, and I guess this person hated them more. So they started fighting, and one pulls out a knife and starts stabbing the other person. Everybody runs except me. I walked up, I grabbed the guy's arm, and twisted it up, and I'm looking at the knife. It's got blood on it and everything else, and it's got the serrated edge and two rivets, wooden handle. It's like, this is a steak knife. You got that from the restaurant next door. So that means you had steak for supper, and I didn't. So I twisted the arm even harder until they dropped the knife. But I don't care about that kind of stuff. If somebody's getting hurt or whatever, I'm gonna stick my nose in there. Yeah. And Jimmy knows I got a big nose, so I don't have to. You and I both. We have to sit pretty far away from each other. It's rough when you're on stage and you want to address the whole room, so you kind of turn your head left and right like a sprinkler. And every time you turn, the people in the front are ducking. It's like, why are they ducking?
God forbid.
Nobody wants to ever do cocaine with me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one sniff and it's gone. Yeah. So so. Tell me, you had some issues with your club. You're in Thunder Bay, and what I mean by issues, you had some bad luck recently. You had the pipe break and shit like that. So it's Cricket's Comedy Club in Thunder Bay. When are you going to be up and running again?
Okay, so, well, actually, a lot of people have a tendency to make fun of the name crickets. Like, why would you like crickets? Because I was originally going to call it Backdoor Shenanigans, named after an Irish gay bar joke that I have. And the eye was going to have a doorknob on it and be kind of slightly open. But then I Googled, and there's so many places called Shenanigans.
Yeah.
So then I was working in the barn for my chickens and outdoor animals that I take care of, and all these crickets were making noise. So I thought to myself, I wonder if I tell them some jokes if they will stop. And that's how the club got its name. Like we'll be full open for the next show in March, and I believe it's Derek's again.
It's what again? Sorry,
Derek's again.
Oh, okay.
He's a comic.
Yeah. Your system cut out on me again.
Oh, it did not. I heard the whole thing.
I didn't hear anything. We argue on the show, by the way, Chris. So now I don't want to say anything because I don't want to jinx it because I'll be dead before then.
Oh, come on.
Because he's booking me. That's how it works, right?
Nice.
Remember at the beginning of the call back in the show.
Yeah.
That's
Just keep the belts near the front door.
So works.
I don't have to dig too far into your house for them. So.
They're right at the front, man.
Put my name on them so nobody else go.
We've been planning this for I don't know how many years, and this year I think we're going to try to do it. We talked about February 14th, but that sort of didn't work. I got an MRI coming up, everything like that, so I didn't want to miss it.
I got two letters today for 2 MRIs in March, and I'm absolutely petrified of that machine.
Oh, I love that. I fall asleep
it's
in
fine.
that thing.
Yeah, it's safe. So.
But he and I have wanted to work together for so long.
Just take out your Prince Albert before you go in there.
Oh my!
One of those stuff.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You don't want that ripping out.
Jesus.
If you have, that was to Jimmy, not you.
Yes, that's the sad part is I have to get Vader to put it in for me. But he liked it. So Chris and I are planning on doing a weekend together on stage, and I'm going to MC it, and he's going to go up there.
Where are you going to do that?
Concert.
There or here?
Yeah, we're going to go. He lives there, but I'll be going to Thunder Bay, and you'll be taking the truck and coming with me.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I'm going on when are you doing that?
I don't know, March.
Well, I'm gone the last 2 weeks. I'm going on.
Oh, here we go.
I'm on a boat.
Here we go. I always have to get on air to find out when he's leaving.
I just told you.
I know when we're on air.
I said sometime in March before we got on air.
So. Here we go. When's St. Patty's Day? 17th. You're still.
That's
here.
when we're leaving.
Yeah, I knew it.
And that's St. Patty's Day. Well, not that it matters. We're not going to miss it. But
we'll tape it for
that
you.
would be funny. Yeah.
Chris and I'll tape it for
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
You find gentlemen, have fun. So
basically, because I haven't really done stage time, I'm planning on doing sort of a 15, 20-minute open and then give Chris his.
It's too bad I'm going to miss that. I think that's.
Well, it's going to be terrible.
No, it's not.
Chris's show is the best.
Well, he's booking you, so
that
means I'm getting some wrestling.
He didn't say he's paying me. He just said come on down for the weekend.
Help him out.
Yeah,
be a bro.
He probably hung up because we're talking.
Yeah.
So.
I'm listening.
So yeah, Chris and I we're going to plan on doing a bit of a weekend and just sort of cut loose.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're doing that. Like honestly, and I'm not being a smart ass. I'm glad you're.
Yeah, he's been bugging my ass for 2 years to get back on a stage, so it's perfect that he's leaving.
Yeah.
So, Chris, if people want to get a hold of
my plan for when you're here.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do four different 1 hour sets.
Okay.
So I want to kind of record, all my material.
Yeah.
But the thing, my problem is I'm writing probably 5-10 jokes a day. Yeah, and I from doing it as long as I have, like I know which jokes are going to land, which ones aren't, which ones are jokes to reset if the room gets too out of control with laughter because they can't stay redlining for the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, you need that little bit of a lull to bring them down and then rope them back. So
yeah.
So Chris, if people want to get a hold of you or find the club, where are we finding it? Online, social media? Crickets
Comedy on Facebook.
Okay.
Our website used to be cricketscomedy.com, and for some reason, I paid GoDaddy for the hosting, and then they sold my domain. It's like, so now I've got cricketscomedyclub.ca, but we haven't done nothing with the website until the other building is ready.
Well, check them out on Facebook. I can tell you that Crickets Comedy on Facebook, and they're very active on there with their fans. Like they do chirp back and have some fun with their fans. So
they do a TikTok or anything like that, or
I don't know if Chris.
I don't know.
You don't TikTok.
I am not digitally abundant.
Okay. All right. What's a phone number if they want to find you?
807-707-0584.
Okay, and that was his home line and the club line now.
That's it.
Okay.
Everything comes through this phone.
Oh, good. All right, buddy. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. And if you ever want to come on again, I promise I won't be here. It'll just be you and Rob.
No.
And
this was awesome, just to find out little ins and out of
it's
as a fan of comedy, I just thought I didn't realize there was that much into it.
There's a lot.
And this is just a small taste. You probably go on for hours.
I could go for hours on just the mechanics of comedy.
I didn't realize there's that much to it.
And timing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's lots of stuff. So let's plan. Maybe we'll plan a once a month run with you, just to push the club a little bit and have some fun here.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So, Chris, thanks for coming on with us.
You.
That's Chris Mulawilyshyn from Crickets Comedy Club in Thunder Bay. You can check them out on Facebook. And again, they're very interactive all the way. And yeah, we're going to hopefully be on stage together at some point in time in March. So, Chris, thanks again for making some time.
Anytime, my friend. And
Vader, until next time.
Are you going to make me dance?
Well,
you better not. You heard that one I ripped earlier.
He likes Chris, hold on. He likes dancing. Just picture the big
I'm going to loosen something up there. I'm going to.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Oh,
there we go.
Sphincter, don't fail me now.
The hips don't lie. All right, guys, until next time, this is Shootin' the Shiz, and we appreciate you listening. And until then, keep kicking out.